see any counting.
Yes, it is. It's counting.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
By the word of the Lord, heavens were made. By the breath of His mouth, all their hope. He gathers the waters of the sea. Together as a heap. He gathers the waters of the sea. He lays up the deep. He gathers the waters of the sea in storehouses. Let all of the earth breathe alone. Let them all stand in awe of Him. He gathers the waters of the sea together as a heap. He gathers the waters of the sea. He lays up the deep. He gathers the waters of the sea in storehouses. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made. By the breath of His mouth, all their hosts. By the word of the Lord, all the heavens were made. Hey everybody, how you doing? That was one of the songs from our Psalm 33 suite. We come from a time when there was an awful lot of scripture songs done, and so we want to try our hand at it. We had a good time doing a whole chapter, and that was song 4,
3?
5, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. That's one of the songs from there. And we had a friend tell us once, he said, I knew you were not just about the music. So I figured some of you might want to know a few of the other things that we do, besides sit around and try to figure out how to do streaming videos.
Right up until like 13 seconds before 9.
One of the things we do is we work with a ministry that we call Ministry of Helps. And we are helpers to someone that we care about a lot and we have been friends with for a very long time. And so one of the things we do in Ministry of Helps I want to tell you about tonight. This is a study Bible, called the Revival Study Bible. And our friend Winky Patton was one of the general editors on that, and we import this Bible and distribute it as widely as we can. And if you would like to have one, when Winky was in the country last fall, we ordered a whole bunch to take around and do book tables and everything, and we have some left. So if you go to winkypratney.com, tomorrow Jim will put that link up there, and go to the Revival Study Bible page. Just put at home, like the part of At Home with Jim and Dee, and instead of the usual donation of $100 or more, I will send you one media mail for a donation of $75. It's awesome. We have some left over, and so we're able to do that. Alrighty, we're going to do a couple songs in a row now from The Selfish Giant. If you recall, The Selfish Giant went away to Cornwall to visit his friend the ogre, and he came back and found the kids in his garden, and so he built a wall and chased them out, and then he started having problems. We are getting right now to the plot point, and he's finding that he has a very big problem. Spring didn't come. Spring did not come. Not to the garden. Spring did not come. Birds didn't sing, and the trees did not bloom. Without the children, there is nothing but gloom. Spring didn't come. Spring did not come. Not in the garden. Spring did not come. Birds wouldn't sing, and the trees did not bloom. Without the children, there is nothing but gloom. Everywhere else, the country is green. Outside the walls, there are flowers to be seen. Up on the hills, hear the buzzing of bees. Little lambs play on the blossoming trees. Spring didn't come. Spring did not come. Not to the garden. Spring did not come. Birds didn't sing, and the trees would not bloom. Without the children, there is nothing but gloom.
Spring did not come. Is that right?
Give us a snow.
Well, why don't you turn the page so I can sing the song? Words.
I'm sorry.
I'm singing the words that are on the iPad.
Sounds good to me. Take it up as we go along.
Dear Mrs. Snow, hey, did you hear? I found a place we could play. Oh, yeah.
Dear Mr. Frost, isn't it grand? A wonderful change from my usual travel plan. And you paint silver the trees with your crystal and breeze, the willow and oak. And I will cover the ground and the garden around with my lovely white cloak. You get another try on this.
Dear Mrs. Snow, hey, did you hear? I found a place we could stay. Oh, yeah.
Dear Mr. Frost, isn't it grand? A wonderful change from our usual travel plan. And you paint silver the trees with your crystal and freeze, the willow and oak. And I will cover the ground and the garden around with my lovely white cloak. Well,
Turn the page.
this should be an encouragement to you
Oh.
to go and actually listen to this in its produced form.
Oh,
When it's
yeah.
heard the way it ought to be, it's one of our favorite songs from the project.
And in case, for those of you that been around the last couple of weeks, you know we've had trouble with our streaming and it just drives me crazy when I'm sitting here.
I can see the YouTube thing where we're recording, and as soon as we get ready to start that song, instead of saying good for the signal, it said bad and started giving all kinds of warning signs, and that throws me off. And then I can't remember what I'm playing, and then I look at the VU meter that tells how loud we're getting, and it's way up in the red, meaning you're probably hearing this all distorted. And the good news is that maybe in a week or two we're going to find a better place where we have better internet signal and stuff, and we can do this.
We went scouting.
Yeah.
This weekend. So.
That's right. Because it says at home doesn't necessarily mean it's at our house. It just means we're not out on tours. Right now it means we're at our house, but I'm changing the definition of that so that we can do this. You know how songs, a lot of times songs will have a meaning for you that they don't have for someone else. Or you were in a certain place and a certain thing was happening when you heard certain songs. Well, I'm going to do a couple songs tonight for our tribute that are going to be done by a guy by the name of Johnny Rivers. Now, Johnny Rivers was somewhat unique because he came along about the same time as the Beatles. Now, about that time, when the British invasion hit, almost all American acts just died, especially if they were just male vocalists and they weren't a band or a group. And it was probably a good year before groups like the Byrds and Lovin' Spoonful and a bunch of those kind of groups started catching up and getting back into the swing of things. But Johnny Rivers came along around that same time, and somehow he survived and got even more popular as time went by. And there's a couple of songs of his I want to do. The first one is a song when I was I had gotten my first guitar when I was 15. It only took me a year of hounding my parents to get me this cheap $29, what would be the equivalent of a Walmart guitar. And I started learning how to play, and it was probably close to a year later before I started playing in bands. And the first band that I played in was a band that the lead guitar player lived up the street from me, and the band always practiced in his garage because none of the other parents would allow the noise over there. And I went up there. I wasn't in the band yet, but I went up there and met the lead guitar player. His name was Ed Lillis, and he was sitting practicing the song that I'm about to show you. He was practicing playing the lead. Somehow he thought that I was some hot guitar player. He says, "Is that how it's played? Show me how it's played." I said, "No, you're doing fine." Because he didn't realize I couldn't play anywhere near as good as him. But they did need a rhythm guitar player, so I got in the band, and it was after he and I worked together on this song. Let's see, this is yeah. There is a man who leads a life of danger. To everyone he meets, he stays a stranger. With every move he makes, another chance he takes. Beyond God, he won't live to see tomorrow. Secret agent man, secret agent man. They're giving you a number and taking away your name. Beware of pretty faces that you find. A pretty face can hide an evil mind. And be careful what you say, or you'll give yourself away. Beyond God, you won't live to see tomorrow. Secret agent man, secret agent man. They're giving you a number and taking away your name. Swinging on the Riviera one day, and then laid in the Bombay alley next day. Don't you let the wrong word slip while kissing persuasive lips. The odds are you won't live to see tomorrow. Secret agent man, secret agent man. They've given you a number and taken away your name. have a big trash can ending on that one. So that was my introduction into playing in bands, was through that song there. But within a couple years, my family situation had really gotten bad. I'm sure it's not as bad as a lot of people, but a lot of people start off with a bad family situation. Mine seemed, I thought all along, mine was a fairly normal situation. Mom and dad and 2 kids living in the, living in the suburbs, having enough money so that my dad had a race car and I had a race car, and we were still just middle class. And I mean, our house was 3-bedroom, 1 bath, no heating, no air conditioning, but we had windows that would open.
And it was in San Diego.
And it was in San Diego. Of course, there were no screens on the windows, but there were, that was our air conditioning. Open the doors, and the heating was crawl into bed and turn on the electric blanket. But when the family fell apart, as it was in those days, you just assumed that when there was a divorce, the kids were going to go with the parents, with the mom. Not, they didn't have, like they have today, where even you had split thing or anything like that. It was pretty much once the divorce was over, then I never really saw my dad at all. And my home situation was not that good, and I didn't even realize it until I started looking around at the new school. We moved, went to a school that I hated, but I started realizing that I was the only one who really just only had a pair of jeans and T-shirts, and that's all I ever wore. I didn't have, breakfast every day was just peanut butter and toast, because apparently there wasn't any money for anything else, because that's all we had. And so next song I'm going to do, was a song that kind of reminded me of the situation I was in, where if I saw a girl that I liked or had a desire to meet or whatever, I knew that I was from the wrong side of the tracks. And this song Johnny Rivers did, called "Horse Out of Town."
How can you tell me how much you miss me? When the last time I saw you, you wouldn't even miss me. That rich guy you can see it must have put you down. So welcome back, baby, to the poor side of town. To him, you were nothing but a little plaything. Not much more than an overnight flame. To me, you were the greatest thing this boy had ever found. Girl, it's hard to find nice things on the poor side of town. I can't blame you for trying. I'm trying to make it soon. I've got one little angle, baby. I just can't make it without you. Without you. So tell me, are you gonna stay now? Will you stand by me, girl, all the way now? With you by my side, it can keep us down. Together we can make it, baby, from the poor side of town.
So tell me how much you love me. Come be near to me and say, leave me now.
There you have it. 2 hits by Johnny Rivers. One of my favorites.
Well, if we're telling stories.
Might as well. We got a few minutes to spare.
Yeah. I was just thinking while he was talking about his teen years, my story actually began much earlier.
No, I'm older than you. My story began earlier.
My folks split up when I was 3
Mm.
instead of when I was 15. And my mom and I, my mom was pretty young, and big long story, but we were also in San Diego. And my mom had been raised, she was the youngest of 8. She'd been raised most of her life in a Christian environment. Her mom really loved the Lord. And but she had a hard time as a young adult, and her marriage fell apart, and found ourselves on our own. She was newly married, and I was 6 years old. She had just started working on her relationships with her older sisters, and they're starting to patch things up after because it was such a shame back then to have a failed marriage. And so we had a barbecue day where my cousins came over, and I was all excited because I was pretty much the littlest cousin. Long story short, a really long story short, I ended up carelessly goofing around doing something, and got burned, pulled a huge urn of coffee, boiling coffee over on myself, and pretty much was burned, according to the doctors, to death. My mom had known the Lord, and she knew she needed to call her mom. Everybody thought it would kill Grandma to know that I was in trouble, but Mom slipped away and called her mom. And when nobody was looking, and Grandma started praying, and that is where my story began, really at an early age, because the Lord miraculously healed me. I'm probably going to write about that in my blog. Jim and I try to blog every once in a while. I'm blogging at the jimanddee.com website right now. I've had different blog situations, but you can look for that pretty soon. I'm going to tell the story about when God healed me. And so in the next few years, I knew what had happened to me. I knew how serious my brush with death had been, even though I was young. And I never had a doubt that the Lord was there, and that he was real, and that he loved me. And so my mom came back to the Lord because of what the Lord did for me. My stepdad came to the Lord. I came to the Lord at a little over 7 years old. It's one of those things where the waves just kept washing up on the shore, and changed our life forever, all of us, because of something careless that I did, but that God, in his mercy, answered the prayers of someone who really knew how to pray. And so here I am. And one of the things I've learned in my life, that it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, it doesn't matter what kind of trouble you're in or anything. All of us need God. And we're going to sing a song called People Need God right now, and it's probably one of the first, it was among the very first songs that Jimmy and I sang together.
And it's on?
It is on our first album.
Yeah.
Our homesteading album that you can find on CD Baby.
All right.
People are starving, bodies in pain, and the problems still remain. Down through the ages, thousands of years, in all our wisdom, we can't stop the tears. We need the Father, we need the Son, we need the Holy Ghost deep in our hearts.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, all those people that the well wishers that sent me get well wishes while we missed last week's concert. And that's it for now. I can't promise we'll be in our new location next week, but I hope we'll get something that's a little more stable and I can just sit here and play and not have to worry about all these other things. So,
And we have a lot of ideas we're working on, but I think we're going to roll them out a little at a time. Blessings to you and good night.